Narcissists do not let people go quietly. Leaving a narcissist can be very complicated and confusing and even dangerous sometimes. In this video, I want to go over several things that I've learned when it comes to leaving a narcissist in the safest, most effective way possible. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. I first want to preface this video by saying the decision to leave a narcissist, whether it be a romantic relationship or a friendship or a work relationship, any kind of relationship, is not an easy decision to make. It's really easy for people like me in this genre to say, just leave the narcissist, leave. But it's really not that simple all the time. And sometimes I have to remind myself of that. Also, leaving a narcissist can be dangerous. So I never want anybody out there to feel like I'm telling them that they need to leave the narcissist in their life, because that's a very personal decision. Every situation is very different, and there are a lot of things to consider. For me personally, in any situation I've ever been in, it has been worth the risks and the costs when it comes to leaving a narcissist. But that's my personal feeling. That's how I've made my personal decisions. And one of the reasons I'm saying this is because it's really important when we break ties with a narcissist not to underestimate what a heavy decision that can be, not to underestimate the dangers, not to underestimate the things that we're giving up and the risks we're taking. And I'm going to address a lot of that in this video. And I just think it's really important. I want to preface the video by saying that leaving a narcissist isn't a simple, easy decision to make. It should be taken very seriously. So here is a list of tips that I've put together, or a list of things to keep in mind or to think about when you're making the decision to leave a narcissist. The first tip that I have is don't try to explain it yourself. This can seem like an obvious thing to do when you're leaving somebody that maybe you've been really close to for years. Maybe this is your spouse. Of course, you want to explain why you're making such a drastic decision. And I think buried in this need to explain is maybe some hope that if you try one more time to explain, maybe this time you'll finally be able to get through to this person. But I also think that we can be guilted into explaining. We can feel like we owe an explanation to this person if we're going to cut off such an important relationship. How can we just leave without explaining? And narcissists will surely take advantage of your sense of decency if you try to cut contact without explaining things. They will take advantage of this, and they will try to make you feel guilty. So this could be another reason that you feel like you have to explain yourself. And of course, if you fall for this and you try to explain why you're leaving, a narcissist is just going to use everything you say against you. They're going to twist your words. They're going to make you doubt yourself. They're going to confuse you. They're going to tell people things you've said out of context. They're going to do everything they can to make you feel like you're wrong and you don't have a right to leave. Because really, if you're trying to explain to a narcissist why you're leaving them, what do you expect them to do? Do you expect them to nod their head and say, yeah, you're right. You really have had enough of my bullshit. You're totally right to leave and cut off contact. They're not going to do that. They know why you want to leave. They know that they've hurt you. They know they've treated you terribly. They may have twisted it up in their head to justify it. They may have explained to themselves and to you why you deserved to be treated that way. But they're not confused. They know that being with them has been a terrible experience for you. You don't need to explain that to them. And when they act confused and when they act like they need explanations, that's just more manipulation. That's just more abuse. So skip this whole explaining things to them. You do not owe them a conversation. Think of all the conversations you've had up until this time. Think of all the times you have talked and explained and tried to get through to this person. Have they ever listened to you? This person has never listened to you or taken you seriously or believed any of the things you've tried to tell them up until now? What makes you think that they're going to take anything you say seriously when you try to explain why you're leaving? And what makes you think that they deserve an explanation after all of the time they've spent not listening to you and not respecting what you have to say and not respecting your feelings and what you've experienced in this relationship? The second thing to keep in mind when you're breaking off a relationship with a narcissist is that you do not have to play fair with this person. And let me explain. I do not mean that you should go out of your way to try to screw this person over or try to hurt them or smear them or do any of the things that they're going to end up doing to you. What I mean is, don't assume that they're going to play fair with you. Don't think that you're going to go into this playing by the rules. You need to be prepared for things that you probably never even imagined. When you try to break off a relationship with a narcissist, that's a huge blow to their ego if that's how they perceive it. A lot of narcissists will try to twist it around into they're the one leaving you. They're the one that decided to break off the relationship with you because their ego just cannot handle the idea that anybody that they have had control over would wake up and decide that they don't need them anymore, that they could lose control of somebody that they had control over. That feels almost life-threatening to them. That is impossible for them to process and accept. And they will do things that will shock you to try to cope with that, to twist it around, to make you pay for it, to make it look like it's your fault. They will do all kinds of things to try to protect their own ego. So when you go into this separation, you really need to think ahead and realize that this person is going to try to make things difficult for you. Try to do things like make you lose your job, maybe get you arrested for something, make you lose relationships with your family, maybe even your kids. They could financially devastate you. They could smear your name. You could lose all your friends. There's all kinds of things that will pop up. A narcissist is capable of doing almost anything that saves their ego, saves their reputation. So you really need to go into this prepared for the worst, like you're preparing for a war. Don't go into this thinking that this person's going to play fair. You cannot go into it thinking that you're going to play fair. You need to be prepared for an attack. I mean, don't try to start problems. Don't try to make things difficult, but be prepared for this person to go to war with you. And this kind of naturally flows into my next tip of do not underestimate the narcissist. When you're leaving the narcissist, they are not going to play fair with you, and they could be capable of things that you never dreamed of. You have never really met this person. If you have been in any kind of relationship with a pathological narcissist, I can promise you, you do not know this person. You may know the facade or the act or the character that they've been playing for you the whole time you've known them, years, decades maybe, but you have never known them as someone that you're leaving, as somebody who's dealing with the fact that they're losing control of you. You do not know this person. You do not know what they're capable of. So don't make the mistake of thinking, well, he would never do that to me, or she would never stoop that low, or I know that I'm safe in this area. You don't know what this person's capable of. You really don't. Don't underestimate them and be prepared for just about anything. And I mean, don't open the door. You know, if they come to your house and knock on the door, don't underestimate what they're capable of. You need to treat this person as if they're going to try to destroy you any opportunity they get in any way that they can. So literally don't open the door, and figuratively don't open the door. Obviously, if you have kids together, you're legally obligated to open the door in some sense. But I mean, I don't think you're legally obligated to let them into your house. I don't think you're legally obligated to have conversations past what's absolutely necessary. So still, don't underestimate this person and don't communicate any more than you absolutely have to. The fourth tip I have when you are leaving a narcissist is don't listen to what the narcissist is going to say to you. Now, in any other normal kind of relationship, this might sound really horrible. You know, if you're breaking off contact with somebody and now you're going to refuse to listen to anything that they say. But I am talking about abusive relationships. I'm talking about somebody that has been abusive, emotionally abusive and manipulative to you. Somebody that has messed with your head, has tried to get you to live in an alternate reality, adopt their narrative. Somebody that's hurt you, that's hurt your self-esteem, that's hurt your sense of self and your identity. Stop listening to this person. When you try to break off the relationship, they could say all kinds of things, and they know how to push your buttons. They know just what to say to make you doubt yourself or to make you think that maybe there's still a chance. Many narcissists will promise to change, or they will show signs of change, or they will finally come around and seem to finally understand and be willing to listen and to do the things that you need. This is just proof that they've known all along what you need from them. This is just proof that they have been purposefully withholding what you need, that they know that they're not doing the things that you want, the things that you need for you to be happy in the relationship, when they can suddenly just be the person that you've needed them to be all along. They have known who that person is. They just weren't willing or able to put in the time and energy it took to be that person during the relationship. And the time, the energy that it takes for a narcissist to be the person you need them to be is just, it's not worth it to them. It takes them an enormous amount of energy to meet the needs of somebody else. And they'll do it for a little bit if they're desperate and they need to regain control of you, but they can't keep it up. It's just too much effort for them, and there's no payoff to them. When you break things off with a narcissist, you really have to be done. You have to really make a decision that this relationship is over. Because if there's even a little bit of wiggle room in your head of, okay, well, I'm going to leave, but if he or she says this or does this, then maybe I'll give it another chance. I mean, maybe we can go out to dinner and talk things over once or twice and I'll see what they have to say. Maybe there's still hope, or maybe I'll leave, but I'll wait for a few months to see if they come around. You really have to realize that this relationship is toxic, dangerous, abusive, not worth the risk of leaving the door cracked open. You really have to be done. And I know this can be really difficult. It's easy to say. It makes a lot of sense. It seems to be very logical, but emotionally, this is almost impossible in some ways. You really have to force yourself to do the right thing for yourself and wait for your emotions to catch up when you are trauma bonded to somebody that has abused you. It's really difficult to accept that there really is no hope for this relationship. This person is never going to be the person you need them to be, and they're going to do or say anything to convince you otherwise, because they know how vulnerable you are. This is like breaking an addiction. And when somebody is sitting there finally saying things that you've been waiting for them to say for maybe years, it's really hard not to give in. So you need to decide before you end the relationship that you're really done, and that it really does not matter what they say or do afterwards. Remember that it is so common for an abusive person to suddenly straighten up and change their behavior and be nicer, that it's part of the abuse cycle. You can almost count on this happening. It doesn't happen every single time, but I would guess that it probably happens more than it doesn't. So it probably happens most of the time, that the narcissist will suddenly change their ways and everything will seem wonderful, and you'll go back, and then of course eventually everything will go back to the way it was before, or if even worse. So after you leave a narcissist, when you get that phone call or that text or that conversation where they're apologizing and taking accountability and promising you that things are going to be different, instead of falling for it, instead of wondering, maybe they really mean it, maybe there really is hope, instead look at it and say, yep, This is part of the abuse cycle. I knew this was going to happen. Be prepared for it and block them if you can. Don't engage in these conversations. Don't even answer these people. Just ignore all of these attempts to manipulate you into coming back into the relationship. The next piece of advice I have is not to let yourself treat leaving as some kind of threat. When you get ready to leave a narcissist, as I was just saying, this needs to be a serious final decision that you commit to. This should not be treated as something that is some sort of manipulation tactic, something that you're doing to try to get through to the narcissist, to try to convince them that you're serious and that they need to start treating you better. Leaving a narcissist to try to get through to them, to try to change their behavior, to try to get their attention, to try to fix things. I really try never to say never, but I would say that that will never ever work. In the years that I have been studying narcissism and in all the experiences I've had with narcissists, I have never, ever heard of a story, not even an urban legend. I have never heard of a story of anyone that left a narcissist because they'd been fed up, and then the narcissist finally got a clue and realized that they needed to change, and so they actually changed and started being nicer and stopped abusing this person, and they all lived happily ever after. If you decide to leave, you need to leave. And this is part of why you don't need to explain things, because again, explaining things can in some ways be an attempt, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, an attempt to try to get through to this person and to use leaving as a manipulation tactic. You know, maybe now they'll take me seriously. No, they won't. They are just going to be angry that you have the nerve to think that you have the right to go live your own life without them. They're just going to get angry and they're going to get nasty. They're going to get dangerous. They might be really nice to you for a little bit while you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, you know, and once they regain control of you, it's likely that things are going to get much, much worse. Narcissists do not react well to other people trying to control their behavior, no matter how reasonable your expectations are, no matter how much of a right you have to expect them to just be decent to you. You really cannot control the behavior of a narcissist, not even by leaving them or threatening to leave. The next tip I have is not to think that you can somehow manage living with a narcissist. I mean, yes, I have known people that have lived their entire life with a very narcissistic person. And I mean, they didn't die. They lived day to day. They got up in the morning and they had breakfast and went about their day, and then they went to bed at night and life went on, right? But from what I could tell, these were very miserable existences. These were people that, I mean, for me, these people weren't really living. They were just surviving day to day. I think a lot of us can try to convince ourselves that we can manage a relationship with a narcissist because we're trauma bonded, and we think that somehow we're going to find this key. We're going to solve this puzzle where we figure out how to live peacefully with a narcissist, like we're living with a wild animal or something, like we're living with a lion that we've learned how to tame. We know how to live with this wild animal, and we can enjoy all the benefits of living with this wild animal that we think we're in love with, and get all of the benefits, all the emotional benefits of being addicted to a toxic relationship without paying the price for staying. And this is just really not something that anybody can do without sacrificing their emotional needs, sacrificing their identity, sacrificing anything that they would have wanted for themselves, for their life, sacrificing their sense of self-worth and getting their emotional needs met. I think it's really, really sad for anybody that's been stuck with a narcissist and just stayed there for the rest of their life. It's like living for somebody else and never being able to live a life for yourself. And what do you really ever get out of that? When we're trauma bonded to a narcissist, it seems like we're losing something really, really important when we give up this relationship. So it can feel really, really difficult to leave. It can feel like we would be happy if we could just figure out a way to stay. But this is an illusion. Staying with a narcissist will be a perpetual life of misery, of being unimportant, of being overlooked, invalidated, ridiculed, treated like you don't matter, your feelings don't matter. I mean, that's all this life will be. A narcissist cannot be the person that you need. They cannot be somebody that can fulfill the emotional needs that you need fulfilled from your partner. They just don't have that in them. And to think that you can manage a narcissist because you understand narcissism, narcissists have their ways around that. Narcissists put you in no-win situations where there is no way to manage them. The only way to manage a narcissist is to leave and stop talking to them. When you live with a narcissist, when you're close to a narcissist, they will punish you for the emotional problems that they have. They need you to take responsibility for their anger, for their emotional problems, for their pathological insecurities. They need to punish you for things that have nothing to do with you. That's your job in their eyes. And there's no way for you to manage that. If you decide that you're just going to use the gray rock method and you're just not going to let them get under your skin, you're just not going to let them bother you when they try to instigate, when they try to start fights, well, that's just going to make them more upset. That's going to make them see you as somebody that's not doing your job. And their behavior is going to escalate. They're going to treat you worse and worse and worse until you react, until you give up control and you allow them to ruin your day, to make you cry or to make you start arguing for 3 hours. They need you to do that. And the more that you don't give in to that, the angrier they get. And every now and then I see people comment things about how proud they are of how upset they made a narcissist. And narcissists are dangerous. And honestly, when I see posts like that, I mean, I think that this person is either very, very early in the stages of understanding what they're dealing with, or they may be narcissistic themselves. I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm sorry if this offends you, but I just think it's very naive and foolish to think that you can live with a pathologically narcissistic person and that you somehow have it all figured out. You know how to handle this. You know how to walk the line, use gray rock. You've got control of this. You're able to control a narcissist enough to live with them. And I think that is actually pretty narcissistic in and of itself. And I have to wonder, what in the world are you getting out of this relationship that is worth such a miserable existence? Okay, one more tip before I end this video, and that is be careful who you confide in. The narcissist is probably in contact with a lot of people that you are in contact with, because when you're in any kind of relationship with a narcissist, it's really common for your friends and family, your social network to shrink and to grow with the people that you know through the narcissist. So you're going to share a lot of friends and family with the narcissist, and it can be really painful to start to realize how many of these people are going to side with the narcissist, how many of these people are going to just abandon you or even be angry with you or participate in a smear campaign because you have dared betray the narcissist. And some of these people may be trying to play both sides. There's going to be people that think that they're going to play fair. I mean, to be fair, when you're not in the relationship, it can be really difficult sometimes to identify who the abuser is and who the abuse victim is. And some people, especially if they don't understand abuse, they can be thinking that they're just trying to be a friend, and they can be telling the narcissist everything that you're telling them. When you are telling people how you feel about what the narcissist is doing, when you tell people what your new phone number is, if you had to change your phone number, or where you live, if you've moved, be really, really careful not to share information with people that are still in contact with the narcissist. And I really do mean anyone who is still on friendly terms with a narcissist. you need to be really, really, really careful what you share with that person. And for me personally, after everything that I've been through, I would probably cut off contact with anyone who is still on friendly terms with a narcissist, but that's just me. So I feel like this video was pretty intense, but for anybody that is about to end a relationship with a narcissist, I think these are some really important points to keep in mind, to be prepared for the reality of what this means. It's really easy for us to project the way that we feel and the way that we would process a breakup, to project that onto the narcissist. We've been projecting our emotional reality and the way that we feel and the way that we process emotions onto the narcissist through the whole relationship. We have projected the way that we perceive reality the whole time. So it's natural to assume that the narcissist is going to perceive things in similar ways, even as we end the relationship. And what I mean by that is, we might assume that they're going to miss us. They're going to be sad. We might assume that they deserve an explanation, that maybe they're going to be confused. We might assume that they value the relationship, that they would be willing to change. Of course, they don't want to lose us because we don't want to lose them. And as we project our own reality and our own lens that we see the world through onto the narcissist, we can make a lot of really big mistakes that leave us open and vulnerable to more abuse and to being hurt by this person that really doesn't care about us, that never really has. This person that is looking for any opportunity they can find to paint us as the bad guy, to make us pay for thinking that we could live without them, to punish us, to confuse us, and to convince us that we're wrong to want to live on our own. I think it's really important to prepare yourself to separate from somebody that you've never really known. And I hope that the tips and ideas that I shared in this video can help you make this really difficult decision and to follow through with it. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.